The kaiju we're covering today is big. So big, in fact, that it's in his title. This kaiju is also red. Completely red. Even redder than Ultraman. It's also a dog, which is certainly not a common animal for a kaiju to be based on. So to recap, this kaiju is a big red dog. Is there even a monster that fits all those criteria? Perhaps Gagango from Fireman? No, silly. It's Clifford the Big Red Dog, of course. Howdy folks, and thanks for stopping by. Now I know you're all probably questioning my covering Clifford when I only cover Tokusatsu characters, and especially Kaiju on this channel, but to that I say, you have only yourselves to blame, because back on October 24th, 2024, you all overwhelmingly claimed that you considered the Big Red Dog to be a Kaiju, citing, for instance, the fact that he is indeed a strange beast, which is what Kaiju means. So since he's a Kaiju, that means it's my job to educate you all about his history. So let's get this incredibly important bio started. Like other kaiju franchises such as Gamera and Ultraman, the Clifford the Big Red Dog series originated in the 1960s. The monster was created by Norman Bridwell, an artist who, at first, just couldn't get a job as a children's book illustrator no matter how hard he tried. However, an editor at Harper & Row caught sight of a picture he had drawn of a girl with a large dog with the ironic name Tiny and told him there might be a story in this. Bridwell had created this giant pooch because as a child he'd wanted a dog the size of a horse. However, the final version of Clifford ended up being quite a bit larger than a horse. His actual size in Norman Bridwell's books would fluctuate, usually being around 7.5 meters tall, but occasionally being shown to be even larger. When standing on his hind legs, such as in this book, Clifford the Firehouse Dog, his true identity as a kaiju is hard to ignore, as he is able to reach higher than a 4-story building, hold people like dolls, and destroy a fruit stand. In the very first book in the series, Clifford the Big Red Dog, he is shown doing other obvious kaiju behaviors, such as taking hold of vehicles with his mouth and attacking buildings, in this case a shoe repair shop, and even a policeman. Clifford's origin story, revealed in Clifford the Small Red Puppy, is that Emily Elizabeth, who I guess is this universe's version of a Kenny or kaiju kid, adopted the runt of a litter, and like with most kaiju that kids bring home, he quickly became a problem by growing enormous. They're fortunate they didn't have to call the Science Patrol. Clifford was apparently named after a childhood imaginary friend of Norman Bridwell's wife, Norma. Yes, her first name was super similar to her husband, while Emily Elizabeth was named after Norman and Norma's daughter. The series of books about Clifford's kaiju-sized adventures grew to become quite popular. Popular enough to get several animated adaptations, with the most famous one probably being the PBS TV show that started airing in the year 2000. This show took place on Birdwell Island, a super, completely obvious reference to Monster Island, and introduced 2 regular dogs that like to play with the dog kaiju to the series, named Cleo and T-Bone, as well as a bunch of other characters. KC is a good one.
KC! KC! KC!
Clifford was also apparently friends with a saw in this series, according to the theme song.
He's a friend to a saw.
He's a friend to a saw. Funny, I never made friends with any of my tools. Clifford, voiced by John Ritter, had some certified kaiju moments in this tokusatsu show, such as here where his stomps shook the ground so much this guy fell in the wet concrete, or here where he basically dug the Grand Canyon right through this beach. And then in this episode he did it again, but dug even deeper and started gnawing on the bone of some other kaiju. He also took the top of this lighthouse off in the same episode. Fortunately though, the monster generally behaved well. Perhaps Ultraman Cosmos calmed him down at some point in the past. Clifford had now been featured in several shows, just like the kaiju in franchises like Ultraman, Zone Fighter, and Mirror Man. But to become the top kaiju around, he had to start doing things the way even more famous monsters like Godzilla, Kong, and Gamera do them. And so, in 2004, he got to star in his very first full-length creature feature, aptly titled Clifford's Really Big Movie. This whole scene where Clifford stomps around in this big city gives off lots of kaiju vibes, and I have a feeling the beginning of it where he jumps over these fishermen could even be based off of a similar scene from Godzilla 1998. But that wasn't the only Clifford the Big Red Dog movie. In 2021, Clifford got to upgrade to a live-action / CGI hybrid movie that, again, very much like Godzilla 1998, took place in New York City, and featured Clifford stomping around the city just like TriStar's Godzilla. Despite how this poster makes him look, Clifford was shrunk all the way down seemingly to about 3 meters for this appearance. So, like Kong, he's going to have a lot of growing to do before his inevitable clash with Godzilla. Perhaps the planned sequel to this movie will officially induct the big red dog into the Monsterverse as Titanus Clifford. Someone better inform Monarch about him. Now, this wouldn't be a kaiju bio if I didn't discuss the monsters merchandise, starting with the monster toys I have in my personal collection. All true kaiju figure collectors have the official Movie Monster series figure of the canine kaiju with the film-accurate removable head. And then there's this replica of the monster's doghouse, as well as a book called The Big Red Stop Sign, an extremely educational story about stop signs. Wait, what does this have to do with kaiju? Aside from the figures I own, other toy companies, such as probably Bandai, Bullmark, SH Figuarts, and all the others, have produced many other wonderful, well, I don't know if I can call that wonderful, but other than that, many wonderful figures and other collectibles. Clifford is such a fantastic monster. Should I add him to my Forgotten Monsters Hall of Fame? Yes, I think I will. In fact, I'll just make it only Clifford, because he's that great. He's a friend to us all. And a friend to a saw, too, on top of that.
We're starting to become very worried about you, Professor.
Every year around this time, in fact, usually on this very day, you start covering really strange stuff. First it was Flareon, then Ultraman Losh, and now Clifford the Big Red Dog? Why, Professor, why?
Oh, don't worry, I have a good reason. And, this cassette tape will explain everything. Ooh, retro! Now, I have to run along and read a Speckle story, but enjoy, kids.
Quick, Pencil Leopard, stick it in here.
Haven't used one of these in a while.
Ooh, catchy. Is this some jam that Earthlings like?
I think we've been fooled.
You know the rules, and so do I. But no commitments wanna pick it up. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. I just wanna tell you how I'm feeling. Gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna say goodbye.
KC!